Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a textured watercolor technique cake. So I saw this technique and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I'm going to be showing you today exactly how to create this cake on your own. So stay tuned and follow along, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So we are going to be starting with our crumb coated cake, and we're going to make sure it's completely chilled. That means that no buttercream is coming off on my fingers. And we are going to take our Swiss meringue buttercream, and you can find that recipe and tutorial in the previous videos that I have. And you're going to take your Swiss meringue buttercream in a piping bag and place the end of the piping bag next to the base of the cake where the cake touches the board. And you're going to hold it at a 45-degree angle away from you, so you can see the whole of the end of the piping bag. Now you're going to start pushing the buttercream through the piping bag onto the cake and turn the turntable away from the piping bag. So this allows the tube of buttercream to be piped directly onto the cake at the same thickness. So you're going to repeat this piping of buttercream all the way up the sides of the cake until the very top. Now once you reach the very top, like you see me do, and pipe one more ring of buttercream around the top corners. You're going to squeeze the remaining buttercream on the top of the cake. Now I usually do a looser spiral on my top of my cakes, but not as tight as what I would on the sides. But you can do it however you would like. Now I always say with the cake there's always two angles, a horizontal and a vertical. So we're going to start with the top of the cake first. So with your palette knife you're going to flatten out the top of the cake just like we did with the crumb coat, and you're going to firstly spread out the buttercream side to side using the outer edge of the palette knife, and then using one outer edge and turning the turntable to achieve that flat surface. So this time we don't want the layer of buttercream to be as thin as what we did with the crumb coat. So rather than pushing down on the cake, you're going to feel some resistance from the buttercream from the crumb coat, and you're going to glide the palette knife over. This will smooth the buttercream out like we did with the layering of our cake. And if you push down too hard, you will take off too much buttercream and reveal the cake underneath. So we don't want to do that like we did with our crumb coat. So we're aiming to push the buttercream over the edges of the cake so there is a slight overspill of buttercream. And once the top of the cake is smooth and flat, you won't be touching that again until the very end. So make sure it is exactly how you want it to be. And now it's time for our scraper. And when placing the scraper against the cake, you want to hold it firmly in your hand, but place it against the cake with a light touch. You're going to keep the scraper at about a 45-degree angle towards you, and this is the same angle that we did in the crumb coat. You're going to have your hand at the bottom of the scraper, and the bottom edge is going to be touching the cake board. You're going to start turning your turntable, and you're going to begin to let the weight of the scraper fall against the sides of the cake rather than pushing into the cake, because if you push into the cake then you're going to scrape away more buttercream than what you need to. Our goal is to just get that nice smooth buttercream surface and not have any holes or edges or anything like that. So once you've gone around the cakes a few times, you'll see that the gaps in between the piped layers of the buttercream will start to close. And now you can start to put a little bit more pressure onto the sides of the cake with the scraper and go around the cake multiple times before you start like removing that buttercream from the scraper and cleaning it off. Once you start to get the gaps to close in and the holes to close in a little bit more, then you want to go on with the longer turns with the turntable, and I'll explain more about those later. So once the majority of the gaps between the layers of buttercream have been closed, you can now check to see if any more buttercream needs to be added to certain areas. So you're going to use the back of your palette knife and place on some excess buttercream over the gaps that weren't caught by the scraper. Then you're going to go on with the scraper again and try to smooth out that area. So this is just adding and kind of filling in the holes just to make that smooth surface. Now, when most of the buttercream is smooth but a few air bubbles remain, you want to glide the scraper over the surface very gently, turning the cake in longer movements. This is what I was talking about earlier. So it's going to be similar to how we smoothed out the cake in the crumb coat, where I showed those longer strides. See, like I'm grabbing this, I'm wrapping my hand all the way around the cake, and I'm moving it all around just in one long motion. So this kind of helps get that smoother surface. You're going to go on the cake with a motion, and you're going to come off the cake with a motion. This helps decrease the amount of lines that you see in your buttercream. And you will continue to do this until you are perfectly happy with the cake. But I do want to remind you, since we are doing the textured watercolor technique, this second layer of buttercream does not have to be perfect. And after you're happy with this, you're going to place it in the freezer for about 10 minutes. So now we have our cake that's been in the freezer for about 10 minutes, and we have 3 colors. So I chose a lighter purple, a turquoisey blue, and a darker purple. With the end of your palette knife, you're going to take a very small amount of the colored buttercream that you want first and place it onto the side of the cake. And you're going to repeat this all around the cake as well as the top, leaving a few gaps, in between, just kind of where you think color should be. So you're just kind of dotting color all the way around. So now you're going to take your side scraper and you're going to begin to smooth the sides of the cake, and you're going to be blending it in with that white buttercream. And you're going to smooth the cake until the buttercream has blended in and is happy. Now remember, this is a textured watercolor technique, so the color is going to be raised up a little bit, and that's what we want. That is why we stuck it in the freezer, so that it would be colder. So then you're going to take your second color of choice and kind of place it overlapping the other color, kind of in between little gaps. I kind of like to put them kind of on top of the color sometimes. That way when you scrape it, it blends and makes a nice little effect. So again, you're going to be placing the second color in between the gaps and wherever you think your color should be. This is your cake, your creation, so however you want it to look. And now you're going to take that side scraper and do the same thing. Now I love watching these colors blend together. This is where I get really excited, and I get to see where I need to place the last lighter purple color. But it's always so much fun to see how the colors blend together and look once they start coming all together. Now, if you notice that your buttercream is getting a little soft, pop it back in the freezer for about 5 to 10 minutes because we want this to be a textured watercolor technique. So we want the cake to have texture to it. We want some of the buttercream to be rised up. We don't want it all to blend in together. So if you notice that your buttercream is getting a little soft, just pop it in the freezer for about 5 to 10 minutes and then pop it back out, and you can continue putting on color where you need to. Now once you get that last little bit of color on, make sure and check that you don't want to put any more color in any gaps, and then you're going to smooth it out again. This is why I like to use the darker color and the lighter color of the same colors, because it just makes, it just makes the cake pop even more. After you go around with the scraper a time or two, go back in, try to fill in any gaps that you see, and then you'll just smooth it out again until you are completely happy. Now you will notice with this cake, I did not clean off the corners. The reason for that is because I think the rough corners just adds to the design of the cake. So you can take a look at your cake, and once you're completely happy, that is how we do our textured watercolor technique. But we are not done yet. It is time to add some decoration. So I'm going to take my piping tip. I have a PME 13 piping tip, and I've already put it into my piping bag, and I use a tall vase. Now I'm going to use some extra buttercream that I have from our cake, and I'm going to spoon and paint that colored buttercream up the side of my piping bag because I want to add multiple colors to this to give it more of a more colorful effect. So I'm going to paint it up the side of the cakes. I know a lot of people try to use that cling film and they line it all up and then they roll it up and then they cut the end. To me, I tried it and I just made a huge mess, and my husband just laughed at me. So I find that this works better for me. So I take the different colors and I paint them up the side of the piping bag. This is why I use that tall vase, because you know it kind of helps me. Now once you get all your colors painted on, you're going to pull up your piping bag and you're just going to work those colors all the way down. So straighten up your bag and then just kind of work them and massage them down so that they kind of meet all together. So you see the blue and the two purples coming down together. Now sometimes there is going to be a color that tries to take over all the other colors. You can just squeeze it out in a bowl until you start seeing all the other colors come out together. So that's what I'm doing right here. You just squeeze it in that bowl until you make sure and see all three of the colors are coming out. In my case, you can use as many colors as you like. I just would not recommend doing more than 4. I also pre-made some of my meringue kisses that I painted the turquoise and purple color. I do have that tutorial on my channel as well that y'all need to go and check out if you want to add those to your cakes. And for this cake, I decided to do a isomalt sail. Drop your comments below if you want me to upload a tutorial on how to make the isomalt sail and the isomalt fan. And if so, I will definitely upload that video for y'all. So now that we have our decorations laid out, we're going to grab our cake and we're going to pick where we want our front to be. So on every cake that I design, I always spin the cake around, look at it, and I pick where I want my front to be, which looks more appealing to me. So once you find your front, then it's time to start doing the fun part and decorate. So like I said, I'm taking my PME 13 piping tip with my 3 colors that are in my piping bag and my isomalt sails and my meringue kisses. And what I'm going to do is put that isomalt fan kind of on the side of the cake. So I'm piping on some buttercream to kind of act as a glue for the isomalt sails and the fan. Now these are extremely fragile, so if you do attempt to make these, or if you want me to upload a tutorial and if somebody tries them, I'd love to see. But be careful because they can easily break, but it's no biggie because you can just remelt them and then reform them as well. And then I'm just going to add some meringue kisses in there, and again I'm going to use that buttercream as a glue to stick those meringue kisses on there. So now I'm going to take my piping tip and I'm going to pipe along the top of the cake, just some little stars. And again, this is acting as a glue because I'm going to be adding that big isomalt sail on top. So I want it appealing, if anything of the buttercream pipes or shows through, but I also want the isomalt sail to stick. So I carefully place it on there and I press firmly in the center. Again, these are extremely fragile, so be careful. And so then I decided to take some of those meringue kisses and kind of place them along the sides of the isomalt sail. This, I feel like, just gives it a little extra touch and kind of just ties it all together and gives it that little drop of color. And then I decided to place some of those meringue kisses into the isomalt sail because I feel like that gives it a little extra something. Again, there is no right or wrong way on how to decorate a cake. Just use your imagination and just go with it. Everybody is different and everybody has different opinions, and once you find your niche, then you just go with it and it will be perfect. And then finally some piping along the bottom. So I decided to do kind of a scalloped border on the bottom. So you're basically just pushing and kind of doing a wave motion as well. If you want me to upload a tutorial on different piping techniques with different star tips, leave your comments below again and I will get right on that as well. But let me know if that is something that y'all would be interested in. But with this certain cake, I'm doing kind of like that scalloped border along the bottom just to tie the whole cake in together. And that is how you make your textured watercolor technique cake. I would love to see if y'all try this, so drop your pictures below and comment. And if you want me to upload those other tutorials, again, comment and let me know. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more. Thanks.